Hey everyone, I'm George. I'm actually from Tabcorp here, and I'm here today to talk to you a little bit about how we are driving change and delivering impact through people analytics. So before I get going, I just want to acknowledge PAFOW for giving me the opportunity to be here. It's a great opportunity to be in this room, and I also wanted to call out a couple of other things that I've picked up along the way. You mentioned it was all about sort of learning and understanding new things. So Adrian, you got me thinking about how to use personal information. You know, often what we do in sort of our line of work is we look at organisational data, but I think it's a really sort of emerging concept in terms of how we can apply that to what we do. So you've really got me thinking there. Dylan, where are you? I know you're a Tats Lotto fan. I work for Tabcorp, so it's good to know that we've got something in common. Great to have you on board. There are a couple other things that I picked up on, you know, about providing managers with operational data, and without giving them that information that has an impact on their operational kind of way of working, you're going to be sort of selling to someone who doesn't really want to buy what you're selling. So we've taken an approach at Tabcorp to really focus on what leaders want and also what they need from an HR perspective. I've also picked up on the importance to ladder up what you're doing to the P&C strategy in addition to your business strategy. At the end of the day, the CEO is the one that's signing the checks. He's paying for me to do what I do, and he's paying for me to bring in these new things. So you need to ladder it up so that you can you can tick a few boxes for the boss. So how does this guy work? The big green one. Cool. So look, I'll go through these two slides really quickly, just a little bit about Tabcorp. We're a gambling company, we're an entertainment company. We've got a truckload of brands from our lotteries and Keno division, Lottos, Scratch It, all sorts of things there. Within wagering and media, these are people out on racetracks taking bets, fixed odds. We've got a media arm, and we've also got a gaming arm there. Look, we're a multi-billion-dollar company. We're on the ASX. We've got 9,000 venues across the country. So these are retail operators, not necessarily owned and operated by Tabcorp. We've got one of the biggest retail presence across the country. Look, there's a breakdown there in terms of how and where the money's made. The good news about our company is we give a lot back. You know, we collect a lot of money, but we're a massive redistributor of wealth. You know, nearly 70% of our $5.5 billion in FY19 was given back to either the state and federal governments who give us the licenses to do what we do, to the industry and to our retail partners. The thin slice up there, $0.4 billion of employee costs. That's where I sit. You know, that's our payroll. $400 million. That's our cost base there. So, look, a little bit about me and what I do. I've spent a number of years consulting out in HR land, HR technology, selling stuff, implementing stuff. And about 2 years ago, I joined Tabcorp. I wanted an opportunity to apply my real-world sort of consulting skills into a large organisation and see if I could figure it out and actually do what we tried to do. Other than that, I'm a family man. I've got a young girl, a baby girl, 1 year old, and you know, she keeps me going. And again, Al, to your point, you know, thinking about the future, the context is everything. So how can we make this place better than it currently is? So look, I joined Tabcorp, I think November 2017, and 6 weeks later, one of the biggest mergers in ASX history. Tabcorp bought Tats Lotto. It was an $11 billion buyout, and the whole world sort of changed. You know, I was struggling to come to terms with one organisation, let alone two. But it's fine. I'm still here today. And look, from day one, we had a very clear plan around what we were trying to do as an organisation. There's a few to call out there. One was obviously drive some capital efficiencies. Two was realise some synergies. You know, this was a massive corporate investment, and there are some big dollars on the line in terms of how and why we thought these organisations would come together. Now, in addition to that, there's obviously the people side of things. We wanted to ensure that through this major change and transformation, that we engaged and empowered our people, that we build one organisation. I don't know if any of you have been through a merger, but it's tough, and bringing two cultures together takes a lot of work. And we're still working on it. So some more big picture stuff. This is the laddering up that I spoke about, and I can't remember who mentioned it earlier this afternoon, but it's something that I've been really cognizant of in terms of trying to get a people analytics function up and running. Before I joined, there was nothing. When I joined, there was a person of one. My job was build out people analytics, optimize the technology. So I already had sort of two hats to wear. Our purpose is all about excitement with integrity. We're in the entertainment business, we're in the gambling business. We want to excite and create that really powerful, engaging experience for our customers. But there's a dark side to what we do, and we need to ensure that we do it in the most credible, trusted way that we can. So it's this kind of juxtaposition that we at Tabcorp have to balance and wrestle with every day. From a P&C point of view, we want to make Tabcorp the most exciting place to succeed. Again, laddering it up to our overarching purpose. My analytical role sits in the employee experience team. We've got 4 key principles that we apply to everything we do. It needs to be trustworthy, it needs to create some degree of excitement, it needs to have integrity, and it needs to be easy. And so it's with those 4 things that we look at all of the initiatives and all of the projects that we stand up. The last piece I'll just touch on here is our EVP. It's all about making it yours and making it ours. We want people to come into this organisation, we want them to take control of their contribution, but we want them to ladder it up to the greater good. So, I've got this slide in here about the team member experience. As I said, 6 weeks in, merger, all this sort of stuff happening. I was trying to sort of cut my teeth in terms of the learnings that I'd had out there in the consulting space. How could we bring this analytical thing to life? So you've probably seen something similar to this, but I just decided to cut up the team member, our employee experience. It's a life cycle, it's a journey, and think about some of the questions that we wanted to ask, and indeed that we wanted to answer, and how we would use those answers. Look, I was early on in my time there, and I used a lot of language that's just sort of spoke to the brands that we have, picking our winners, who are we hiring? Why are we hiring them? Are they effective? Are they good hires? Are they great hires? Are they bad hires? Right through the Playmaker experience, are we onboarding them and engaging in them in the right way? Are we keeping them sticky? I heard someone say that earlier. The form guide is all about our performance. Are we rating and reviewing them correctly? How do we determine who's a good performer, who's not, and what are the predictors of said good performance? Playing fair, playing safe, it's all about our compliance, our integrity. Are we doing the things that we said we would do with our employees? Are people going home in the same psychological or mental state that they came to work in? A little bit towards the end there around employee retention, the totalizer in terms of our strategic workforce plans and needs, right through to retirement. So I put this out there and I just wanted to try and test the waters at Tabcorp. Did this stick? And look, I got a little bit of traction, but the reality was that the legacy that I inherited was really, really tough. So we had a landscape, this is our technology landscape. This was in November, in December it doubled. So, the ability for me as an analyst, as someone who's responsible for crunching numbers and telling people how many, what the head count is or what the turnover is, it was out of control. It was really, really tough. You've got your recruitment system there, you've got your core HRIS, I'm sure I'm sort of preaching to the converted here. The performance system, the learning system, the listening system, the health and safety system, the recognition system. How on earth is anyone supposed to make any sense of this? Seriously. As I said, I thought I was reasonable with Excel, but there's only so much you can do, and by the time you do it, it's out of date. Someone has another question. Can you rerun this? Oh my God, you're kidding me. So I decided to change tack and came up with a new vision, right? Not that I'm going to drop the employee life cycle, the team member experience at all, but my vision was to create this unified data set, right? So that we could do all of those fanciful analytical things that we needed to do, that we wanted to do, but we just can't. We're hamstrung by our environment. Now, I dare say that this scenario isn't too dissimilar to anyone else's. I'm hoping, maybe, who knows? So, the case for change. I changed tack, as I said. Initially, when I started, it was all about the analytics, the predictive stuff. How can we make this a really great place? But I changed tack and said, look, that really is only going to benefit a few people. So I'm going to give you my business case in 4 slides, right? This is what I took to our HR officer, chief HR officer, to ask her for money. I said to her, look, I've got 4 slides for you. Here's the first one. 44% of our people leaders said that the systems and processes don't support them to get their work done effectively. I get it. You saw what I had to go through to try and determine, how many high performers we had here or there or any which way. So how on earth could they do what they needed to do as a leader? This one's a little bit older, McKinsey from 2012. 19% of the average worker's week is spent gathering and searching for information. That's 20%, 1 in 5 days. Our payroll's 400 million. You guys do the math, it's about 80 million bucks. We're paying people to look for information. $80 million. You kidding me? Seriously? Unbelievable. Then our friends at Gallup told us, look, 70% of the variance in employee engagement is accounted for by managers. 70%. So we know that managers have an impact on employee engagement. We all know that engaged employees work harder, work better, all that sort of stuff. So I thought, this is the hook, right? What if I could save the company money? What if I could save Tabcorp's managers money? So I put this slide up and said, what would you do with an extra 30,000 hours? All right, so if I saved every one of our managers 1 hour a week for a year, we'd save 30,000 hours. What would you do with that? How would you reinvest that time? Look, these are just my ideas. You could have 10,000 more one-on-ones. We saw the lady from Microsoft, sorry, I've forgotten your name, saying that, what was it? That employees who had 4 or 5 one-on-ones were like more engaged, more productive, all that sort of stuff. Bingo. I mean, there's a gold mine right there, and that's only a third of the time that you've saved. You could also throw another 10,000 hours into your products, into your customer base, right? It's a lot of hours. You could spend another 10,000 hours engaging your teams. Here's the kicker though, you'd also save 2.3 million bucks in people leader efficiency. 1 hour a week for every manager across the year. $2 million. Now, I wasn't asking for sheep stations in my business case. I was asking for a moderate investment. And there you have some sort of concept or indicative return on investment. So, who here has been looking at the analytics market? Anyone? You guys have? So look, it's a tough market. We've got all these individual solutions coming out there. There was another lady on stage, and I'm really bad with names, so apology, who was quite sort of direct in terms of if bespoke solutions don't have the ability to extrapolate, there you are, to extrapolate the information, then I don't want to talk to you, right? If you make it so hard for me that I can't get the data out to do what I need to do and plug it into this much bigger ecosystem, then, yeah, good chance, good luck. So look, the analytics market is peppered with different providers, and we went through sort of a fairly standard process in terms of how we determined who our partner would be. Look, this is all, as I said, pretty standard business case. We did a desktop review, had a shortlist, go to market with an RFP. The simulation I'm going to come back to, go through the commercial hoops, and eventually we're good to go. The reality is I think that took me 8 months, right? 8 months of work to get to that point. I'm going to focus on the desktop review and the simulation because these were the two things that we got a lot of value out of, and I just want to kind of share that with you. So the desktop review, we had some evaluation criteria. Now our vendors didn't know this at the time, and now they're privy to what we were looking for. Look, we really looked at our incumbent provider, an internal solution, and third party, i.e. go-to-market, right? And we were looking for a number of things. One, you're content agnostic. I don't want to be tied to one system for one data source to do my job. I need the flexibility to scale and pivot as and where we need to. They need to be experts in HR data. HR data is complicated. I don't know who came up with it, but it is really, really difficult. Seriously, time stamping, event dating, retrospectives, oh my God. It's a nightmare, but we needed an expert to help us with that sort of stuff. There's some other stuff there I'll let you read in your own time around self-service, around permission, security. These are all things that we actually had to consider. It was interesting that our incumbent could do some, they weren't as agnostic as I needed them to be. I spoke to some of our BI specialists in-house, and they could build me an internal solution. I remember one of them said, in order to get your 600, 650 people leaders a dashboard, you need to build them all a dashboard. And I said, what? All of them a dashboard? How many people are in your team? 5. How many dashboards do you guys support? 50. And I was like, for Christ's sakes, guys, how am I ever going to get this thing out there? Seriously. So we went down the route of a third party that basically ticked all the boxes except for it cost money, right? So I'm asking the boss for money here. So the next thing I want to talk to you about was our simulation, and I think this was a really effective way for looking at our vendors. So I encourage you to do something along the lines if you're going to market. So look, the way this works is we invited 3 vendors to come and pitch. No, sorry, I'll start here. We gave 8 files to some vendors. These were some sanitized data sets, some real life data that we were trying to use to tease out these insights. We sent them across to 3 vendors and we gave them 2 weeks, 14 days to prepare, right? And then we invited them to come in and give a 20-minute presentation to our people leaders. Now remember, we had the team member experience, which was my fanciful way of trying to structure these analytical techniques. That was off the table. I wanted the vendors to pitch a solution that my managers would use, right? They're going to use it, not me. I'm going to benefit, but they're the ones that use it. So the competitive simulation shootout. Look, we asked them to consider the employee journey and we asked them to consider a raft of questions, some which were which people could answer using the data, some they couldn't because the data didn't exist. But the thing that it taught me was quite powerful actually, is that some vendors don't listen. Right? We had one vendor who came in there for 15 minutes of his 20-minute presentation, talked about the technology stack, right? The technology stack and the relationships between the data. What? 8 people leaders do not care about how and where the information comes from. They just want to know what the number is and how they can use it to apply to their business needs. It did teach me that some vendors do listen, right? And some vendors can partner with you and turn things around really, really quickly. 2-week turnaround, 8 data sets. I got dashboards. Managers liked what they saw. It came down to 2 vendors, and it was also interesting in this instance. The preferred vendor, which is one model by the way, the preferred vendor had a dashboard and the visualization that was not so much conventional, but it was easy to relate to. It was things that they'd seen before. So if we were going to do a change assessment or an impact assessment at that time, they'd be able to pick it up relatively easily. You know, it was bar charts, it was lines, it was this and that. The second vendor that we had in, they had a creative, a very sort of busy UI, and the managers couldn't understand what they were being presented. So it was really a really worthwhile experience. So, just to recap, started Playmaker, team member experience, merger, heaps of systems, asked the boss for some money, went through the RFP, got the vendor, needed a team. Okay, it's just me at the moment. I had to bring in some other people. Now these guys had cameo appearances, some of them were just here for a brief moment. Others were some supporting actors and a few were some mainstays. But look, this is a laundry list, it's non-exhaustive. Top to bottom, the sponsor was my boss who coughed up the funds and kind of had governance and oversight. Right through to our change manager, comms manager, BA, tech and security, user design, subject matter experts, pilots, which I'll come back to, the trainers. And then we've got our people data stewards. So these are the HR data experts that we need. We needed them to wrangle all of these different disparate systems into some logical, palatable format so that we could do something with it. And we had a content and product expert and a product partner. So look, the lighter color actually means that we outsourced this. We didn't have the capability in-house to do that. Same with the change manager. The change manager has been critical in terms of our rollout, which I'll come to shortly. All right, the pilot. So actually, before we got to the pilot, once we had the team together, we worked with the vendor very, very closely. We worked with all of our subject matter experts. We started in about July, and by September we had something to show. So we'd already onboarded 7 years of historical information from our core HR system. We had some performance ratings come through. We had various other integrations with our employee listening platform. So we had a little bit there. It wasn't perfect, but we wanted to test it, right? Remember the business case that I put forward in the 4 slides? We wanted to test whether or not we were going to save people time and whether we were going to save some money. So we engineered this thing, and I've called it the high velocity pilot experience, right? It's a busy slide. I'm going to talk to you about it in a bit more detail. So over a period of 3 weeks, we got 30 leaders across the business to go through some scenario-based activities in this new platform. And we were trying to test whether or not it was useful, whether or not they understood what we were doing, whether or not they could use it in their job as a leader, whether or not it saved them time, and whether or not they could take an action based off it. You know, insights without action is just information, and it's basically a waste of time. So, for the first module, I think it was, we themed it understanding your workforce. Basically, it was a laundry list of who's in your team, and we asked leaders to log in and see who's in their team. And I remember one guy said to me at the time, he's like, I would never do this in my job as a manager. And I was like, okay, that's cool. We in HR, we're responsible for the employee data, and it's something that we spend a lot of time doing. It's interesting to know that you don't want to, that you don't need to do it. We took them through other modules around training completions, which is our compliance training regime. There was a whole lot of stuff in there around wellbeing and leave. There was some performance and pay information. There was some recruitment information. And we basically just tested the efficacy of each of these modules, right? So I'm capturing data in each of these things. I think by the end of it, we had 100 odd survey responses from people leaders. This is what they said. So, a few numbers. Data accuracy, 73% of the leaders across all modules agreed or strongly agreed that the data was accurate. Not bad. Right? Success rate, 74% of them could agree that they could basically complete the scenario that we asked them. So when it came to the workforce, we said you need to prepare a report for your boss or something along those lines. When it came to the wellbeing and leave area, we said, you know, what are the leave patterns in your team structure? Who are the kind of outliers in terms of significant balances or too much personal leave? All that sort of stuff. 68% of our leaders said that the tool supported them. Bingo, that's good. 50% said it enabled them to take an action. That's okay, but a bit of room for improvement. 85% of them said it was easy to use, and 72% said it was easy to understand. Now, if you think about the four, I'm going to test my memory here, the four pillars to our employee experience principles: ease, trust, integrity, and excitement. So the ease passed in flying colours, 85%, 72%, pretty good scores. The trust is all around, and the integrity is all around that data accuracy. And excitement, look, I'm going to take supported leader as a link up to excitement. We wanted to empower our leaders to do what they could do. So they're the numbers. Then we got some comments. So the gentleman from Pecan was saying that you can get more out of the comments. They tell you some extra bits and pieces. I won't go through them all, but suffice to say that the leaders gave some feedback in terms of what they wanted to see, what they didn't want to see, what made sense, what didn't make sense. Now, throughout all of this pilot process, we actually had we were very lucky to secure the time of our user experience lead, who typically partners with the business on customer-facing systems, right? So we were able to capitalise on her time, and she really structured the pilot process such that we could elicit the responses, the data, and the information that we needed so that we could improve the product. So if you think about sort of using information to drive action, we were trying to very subtly role model the exact thing that we wanted our leaders to do, which was collect information, interpret it, and then take action. Got this slide in here around delivering on our promise. As I said, 30,000 hours, that was the big number that went to the boss. Am I going to save 30,000 hours? Each module had a question in there: how much time will this save you? Pretty simple question. Modules 1 through 4, you know, the vast majority said it would save them 15 minutes. There's an hour right there. 4 modules, 3 months' work, plus 8 months of RFP. Hoo-ha. Module 5, interesting. 92% said it didn't save them time. Bang. We failed on that one, but it's good. I mean, we can't get everything right. I think that one was about operating rhythm, we called it, where we looked at the inputs that your workers have, i.e. the hours, and the outputs in terms of the organisation overhead, so how much we're paying people. Now, I think 60–70% of our workforce is full-time, permanent, so there's little to no variation. Imagine you log in as a manager, you're just going to see a flat line in terms of the hours worked each month and the flat line in terms of the salaries. The flip side of that is for our casual leaders who have, you know, a highly volatile workforce, who've got a seasonal activity, you know, they've got a really nice lumpy curve, so they could start to predict, forecast where their, you know, where their demands were going to be. Now, unfortunately, when we went to when we rolled this solution out, we needed to standardise things as best we could so it had the broadest appeal. And based off that 92% of people not saving any time, we scrapped it. Module 6, there was a little bit of time saving there in addition to Module 7. So, the rollout. Look, I feel like I'm flying through this, but the rollout was kind of where we are today. The rollout commenced in January, but mind you, between the periods of the pilot and the rollout, there was sort of 3 months of significant activity. We onboarded more data, we implemented new business logic, we built new metrics, we reevaluated the way that we positioned our storyboards, we looked at all of that user feedback that we collected and we basically repackaged it. It was sort of the Storyboards 2.0. We got to about Christmas, we finally felt ready that we had a product that we could take to our market, our 600 or 700 leaders. So, the rollout. We led with this. Want all your team insights all in one place. This is what went to our people leaders. The hook here is that we were going to save our leaders time. Again, laddering up to that business case, which is exactly what we're trying to do. Throw in a little tagline there about make it yours. That's our EVP. We want them to own it. No longer will they have to ask. I think, Ali, it was your chart with the consumer, the business partner, someone in the system, which is probably me, having to run all these reports. No longer will they have to wait 6 weeks to figure out who's got too much leave, right? We want them to take ownership for it. And with that ownership comes a degree of responsibility, but hey, we're paying them to be leaders. We want them to own this information and own the actions that come with having this information. So, this is what it looks like. It's called All Insight. We like to do things, brand things internally, so it's not a product. It has some meaning to our business, has some context. All's a tagline we use with all of our P&C initiatives. It's really to symbolise the two companies coming together. Insight's just about having all your insights in one place. I'll tell you a little bit about the storyboard because there's some of that user experience science that went into this. What we learned is that having a standard way of presenting the information made the dashboard, the storyboards rather, easier on the eye, lowered the relearning. I forget the exact UX term for it, but it basically made it easier for users to navigate from one screen to the next. I mean, it sounds pretty simple, right? Keep the format straightforward. So the top section just talks about the overview, what information is contained in the storyboard. We've pinned some tool tips in that top right-hand corner. And then we break down the data in terms of rows. So you can see up here we've got today's workforce, how many people are on our payroll at any given point in time, and then we've got a trend. On the far right-hand side, we've got some keys and some definitions about what the various metrics mean, right? So that we're trying to take out that ambiguity, we're trying to remove the questions coming to our frontline P&C representatives, into the business partners. What do you mean by today's workforce? Right, well, it's there. I mean, sure, we're happy to massage and help them along the way, but we just wanted to really kind of simplify the way the information was presented. Each of these rows talks to one of the subjects. So the first row is about workforce, second one is about training completion, and embedded in all of these is a hyperlink which would allow them to navigate further into the system and explore the information. Results were individualised, so you could call out who was due to leave the team on a particular point in time or who's non-compliant in their training, perish the thought. There's more in the storyboard. This is the second part of the storyboard. We've got some comp data in there. Comp ratios, anyone across their REM? No? No one? Yes? Okay, good. So look, I put this number in front of our REM team. That's the overall comp ratio across 3,200 full-time employees. I said, guys, you're doing a great job. You're paying exactly on market. How did you do that? They're quietly chuffed with it. Gets a little bit skew-if when you start doing a gender pay equity across our grading system. That's the purple and the green lines there. Got some turnover data there that's been notoriously challenging with two payroll systems and duplicate people here and there, but we've managed to nail it for them. And then we've got some employee recognition. Star Players is our peer-to-peer recognition system. So that's what it looks like. Now, how did we get it to our leaders, right? We got 650 leaders. I've got a noose around my neck in terms of, I said I was going to save the business $30,000. 30,000 hours. So look, we went for a boots on the ground approach. We enlisted the support of some able and willing P&C team members, and I think that was another key takeaway. We've got some business partners out there training people as we speak, but we've also given our people services consultants, who are sort of first level P&C support, the opportunity to shadow these business partners, to get out there and talk to managers and to deliver the training, and they've found it really, really beneficial. But so up front, starting in Jan, we started with P&C, giving them advanced warning of the system. They can see everything organisation-wide, and obviously as a leader, you can only see your particular patch. But the point there being that we wanted them in their hands ahead of the curve so that they knew what the tool could do before their leaders got access to it. Early to mid-Feb, we ran 2 sessions remotely with our leaders who are often left out of the change process. So these are in our satellite offices in Northern Territory, Western Australia, Tasmania, and South Australia. We did two remote calls. They were really happy to be involved in the change process early on, which was great. But you're probably seeing a little bit of a theme here. We actually used it to road test the efficacy of our training. So we were about to embark on, a fully blown boots on the ground rollout, and we wanted to make sure that 1, our trainers knew what they were doing, 2, we could stick to time, and 3, it was impactful for our leaders. So across New South Wales, sort of mid to late Feb, we ran 20 to 30 sessions, and we're right in the throes of Queensland and Victoria rollout. Throughout the logistical implementation there, we've actually been spending some time with the P&C business partners to get them across some of the more advanced functionality so they can answer questions in the instance that the managers can't access that information on their storyboards. So user adoption. Look, things are going pretty well. These numbers are from a few days ago. I think we're up to an access rate of 33%. So that means 33% of our leaders have logged into the platform in the last 3 weeks. Pretty stellar achievement, if I say so. I think the number's about 220. You can see the access rate over the time there in that top right-hand slide. I know that the font's tiny, but what it's actually showing you is in September and October, we had about 30 leaders logging into the system. That was our pilot experience. You can see that the usage then dropped off between October, November, and December. That's when we were down in the weeds, building out the new storyboards, fleshing out what things were going to look and feel like, and then bingo, in Feb, you're getting that jump there in terms of 200 leaders jumping into the platform. The beauty of this tool is we can cut it any which way you want, so no longer am I wrangling spreadsheets, but we've got people leader access across our organisational structure. You can see there's a couple here. Actually, I think it's just technology. This one's P&C. They got early access, but there's some great uptake in the technology space. The numbers that I looked at this morning were as I said, a little bit better than that, and I think our finance team were 50% of them had logged in as well. There's going to be some natural early adopters to what you're doing. It's technology, it's change, it's numbers. Numbers aren't for everyone. We want to make that part of a leader's responsibility, but it's the journey that we're on. So, yeah. Look, I've just got some random quotes in here. This one was from our trainer saying, feedback across the week has been positive on they're actually called storyboards. They all like it. Managers of small teams see training leave and their remuneration is the most useful, but managers of large teams see value in everything. Quote from one, it's awesome. So I thought that was a pretty good endorsement of the work that we're doing. It went to show that we were on the right path in terms of rolling this thing out. Look, there's a couple more comments in there. Bingo, start of something. Just to recap, 2017, hired Tabcorp, new environment, heaps of systems. Bright-eyed and bushy-tailed came up with this team member experience so that we could try and analyse and use analytical techniques to solve business problems. The reality was that wasn't quite fit for purpose. I needed to change tack in order to get some technology in that would allow me to do that. And we're really at that point now. We're at the start of something. Our leaders will now have information at their fingertips across a number of key metrics, which are pretty stock standard stuff, right? But the upside is it frees up P&C time to be providing more insights, providing more of that context, that organisational context, and it gives me time to work on some of the more advanced analytical things. But some of the achievements that we have made to date, first and foremost, look, we unified what I often describe as a patchwork quilt in terms of our HR technology stack. Seriously, sometimes it was held together by sticky tape. It was just an absolute nightmare trying to get information out of those systems. But we've done it, and we've now got this amazing asset that we can leverage. We've improved the visibility of our people data. As I said, there were 6 or 7 systems there. Oh, I think I was the only one in the business out of 5,000 or 6,000 people that had access to them all. How on earth are you going to provide insights and visibility if you struggle yourself to do it? Look, we've shared metrics that matter to support our purpose. Our purpose is excitement with integrity, and we're trying to kind of channel and rally the leaders so that they can action those things that matter to them. Going back to that one of those opening quotes in the business case, 44% of our leaders said that they didn't have the tools and systems. We link that back to this point. So we've provided them a system that supports them to do their work. We're going to be rolling out a survey on Monday to all 600 leaders, whether they've logged in or not. I want to understand, 1, do they know about it? 2, have they used it? And 3, what did they think? So that we can really quantify whether or not we were delivering on our promise. I mentioned there that the time saving for managers, I mean, that's huge, and that's going to go straight either to the bottom line, or I kind of hope optimistically that they're going to plough it back into their teams. But P&C are definitely leveraging the benefits of using technology to replicate some pretty basic, in some cases, calculations. And the last one there is just around that we've started our journey. We've used data decision-driven making throughout the project rollout, and we're just trying to kind of, I guess, model that and get it out there in the business as and where it takes shape. So some lessons learned. Look, the simulation's the way to go. I got a lot out of it. I think I spooked a few of our vendors. Really test their mettle. If you're about to plough, your single biggest capital investment into a particular good, you want to make sure it works. And look, it doesn't cost you much to ask them to do something. The importance of running a rigorous pilot process, again, got a lot of value out of engaging with the people that would actually use this platform. Their feedback was integral in terms of shaping where it is today. Building feedback loops into the project lifecycle, I think that's all just around the pilot process. And the change management approach that we took was critical success. I probably glossed over it a little bit more than I meant to, but there was a whole range of impact assessments to try and understand how and where people were going to be affected so that we could in turn shape the training and the logistics that surround the implementation accordingly. And we have done so. So look, where to from here? What does that say? We're consolidating the rollout of our training and driving that adoption. We've got a storyboard up there that we can use to track metrics as and when they come through every day in terms of uptake. We're embedding this in the day-to-day for P&C. So P&C can use this as a platform to gain insights, to tell stories about what's happening across the organisation. But more importantly, and I'm encouraging P&C to do this, is to get it onto your leadership team meetings, to get it onto their agendas so that they can drive it. At the end of the day, it's information. In HR, we can't control the behaviours or the exact activities of nearly 6,000 workers. That's the job of our leaders, and we're trusting them to do that. We're fostering a culture of self-service for our leaders as well. This is at their fingertips. They can log in from anywhere that they want. It's online. They don't have to do anything to get this information. So it's really there. And as I said, some leaders will adopt to it a little bit more quickly and effectively than others. But we're hoping to kind of create that groundswell around. They don't need to ask people for this information. It's at their disposal. I'm going to revisit the Playmaker Journey when I get back into the office. Now that I've got this great data set, it's unified. It's got all these fantastic timestamps and all sorts of things we can do, and we've got some really sophisticated algorithms that we can then overlay onto this data set. Now, those algorithms are going to spit out some models and some outputs that aren't fit for everyone. They're probably fit for a much more targeted audience than our mass leader group. Yeah, and this last one, it's just really around augmenting the platform and the source data. So my sort of utopia around all of this is let's consolidate the information that we have on our people. Let's put it all in one place. Let's leverage the machine learning and all the fanciful analytics. But then let's go and talk to other parts of the business. Who runs our customer data set? Who's got access to the financials? If we can then substantiate the impact that an HR initiative has on the customer outcomes that your business is interested and the financial impact that that has, you've really got a great story to tell. I think that's the utopia that all of us in people analytics seem to be chasing. We want to demonstrate that business value, and I don't think you'll be able to do that necessarily or as creatively until you get access to that information. So it's sort of the ticket to the game, and that's what we're going to be working on in the next sort of 6 to 12 months. So look, that's everything from me. I'm not sure how I went for time, Al, if I was too short, too long. You were going to say that anyway. Anyway, it's been great. Thanks for having me, guys.
You mind staying up real quick? So quick show of hands, who thought that was pretty cool?
Oh, wow.
Congratulations. I mean, that was, I have the good fortune of doing this all around the world, and that was pretty damn exceptional. So congratulations for
thank you. You know what scared me was in one of your opening remarks, you're like, whoever's doing dashboards, what do they think? All that sort of stuff. Oh God, my whole presentation is about these great dashboards.
No, just a call out. I mean, you started with, we talked about it throughout the day. You understood your internal customer, and you met their need in a very credible, thoughtful way. So, I mean, it was a beautiful story. So, again, congratulations.
No worries.
Thanks for sharing.
Thanks.